Welcome back to Analysis. In the first half, we were discussing the Amnesty International report that alleged that Israeli military were using undue violence in Palestine. In this half of the programme, we'll be discussing the plight of disabled Palestinians and their lack of recognition by the international community. The UN estimates that there are at least 110,000 people in Palestine living with a disability. But concerns have been raised that these disabled are being excluded from education, from jobs and social life by society's attitudes, and that the disabled might also find physical accessibility even to public buildings and transportation a constant challenge. So with the International Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities stipulating that the rights of disabled individuals must be recognised and respected, what is the reality for the disabled people of Palestine? Joining me to discuss these issues are Susanna Taylor, who's Programme Manager in Asia, Middle East and Latin American Department of Y Care International. And on the phone from Nablus on the West Bank, we have Samir Akruk, who's the spokesperson of the General Union of Disabled Palestinians. Welcome to the programme. But before we start the discussion, we interviewed 3 girls from Palestine who came to Britain recently on a tour organised by Medical Aid for Palestine, and we asked them about their experiences of living in Palestine.
Our country does not feel secure. It is fragmented and divided up by segregation walls and checkpoints. There is nothing that ties the fragmented areas of our country together.
The occupation plays a fundamental role in the impact it casts on everyday life of Palestinian society and persons with disabilities in particular. In 2009, Gazan society lived no different to any other city in the world, but suddenly we found our country engulfed by war, the demolition of homes and daily explosions. Try to imagine yourself as an ordinary person walking, then all of a sudden your arm is blown off or your foot is blown to smithereens. People die. Others found their faces disfigured or deformed, whilst others became deaf and blind. You'll find those nearest and dearest to you have disappeared off the face of the earth. What's the fault we've committed? There is no excuse, but the world continues to wrongfully label us as terrorists. Our lives are simple. We're either at work, school, or spend time cooking. I wish someone would ask us what we did so we could respond back adequately. In addition to this, we're now living under siege. No adequate medical supplies are able to reach us, no attempts of restoration to our infrastructure. None of this is available. We can no longer afford medical referrals. The ordinary civilian cannot leave the country alone to receive the medical services he or she requires. It takes far too long to obtain the necessary permit from Israel or wait for Egypt to open up its borders. We face all these innumerable challenges. When the electricity cuts out, I'm unable to make my way up the stairs. All of a sudden, the lift is stopped. Can I reach the 5th story of any building? What's the solution? Am I not a citizen with rights? All I'm told is we're under Israeli occupation. But what's my fault?
A country occupied within another country. That's because we are not a state. We are an occupied population. So long as we remain under Israeli occupation, it is the responsibility of the occupier to feed us, to open up borders and to present opportunities. So the national law is what is responsible for our present fate. And even the Palestinian Authority is one of the largest challenges, lacking the leadership and the support it desires. We remain an occupied country. In all honesty, this is a feeling that is personal to me. This is the first time in the life of Suleiman Shawi that I feel freedom, the meaning of freedom. This is really the first time in my life that I encounter an experience that has introduced me to the notion of freedom. And when the opportunity arises, we'll implement this in Gaza, so that everybody understands the meaning of freedom.
Well, Samia Akrug, let me start with you if I can. We mentioned at the beginning that there are 110,000 disabled people estimated in Palestine, and the women we've just seen on the clip were talking about how some of them are disabled as a result of war, of Israeli. I'm told that we've lost the connection to Nablus for the moment. So let me turn to you, Susanna Taylor, instead. What is Why Care International actually doing in the West Bank?
Well, Why Care International is an international NGO affiliated to the YMCA movement, and our mission is to support disadvantaged young people around the world, and we do this by working with local organisations, and in the case of occupied Palestinian territory, with the East Jerusalem YMCA, and with regards to physically disabled young people, the rehabilitation programme of the East Jerusalem YMCA.
And what are they particularly doing for young people?
They provide an excellent service for both young people who have been physically disabled because due to the conflict, and other physically disabled or persons living with disability throughout the West Bank, and they provide a range of different services. First of all, psychosocial counselling, which is related in part to the conflict, but also to do with increasing self-esteem and confidence of people, young people living with disability. They also provide rehabilitation services, and they provide vocational assessment and training for young people so that they have the possibility of furthering their education or accessing employment.
And this is mainly for young people that you're working with?
That's correct.
Children as well?
The East Jerusalem YMCA works also with children. They have an important programme of work, for example, working with young people, children who have been detained by Israeli authorities, and they work with them particularly in terms of psychosocial counselling and trauma counselling. Our work focuses more particularly in terms of young people between the ages of about 15 and 29.
Well, I think we've got Samia Akrug back again. I'm sorry there was a cut in the line. Are you there, Samia Akrug?
Yeah, actually I am with you.
Good. Well, in the beginning we did say that there were 110,000 estimated Palestinians who are disabled. I was just wondering whether you could tell us roughly how many of those are disabled because of the conflict. They've been wounded or in some ways traumatized by the conflict.
Let me first of all, if you allow me, you and Ms. Suzanne, to clarify one important issue. Actually, the percentage of disabled in the Palestinian areas, Gaza and West Bank, according to the Palestinian Statistics Bureau, June 9, 2010, a study which was made by the Palestinian Statistics Bureau and the Ministry of Social Affairs, estimated the disability as 7% of the total population in Palestine. That means the wide meaning of disability. That means we are talking about 300,000 disabled people in general. The narrow definition of disability, we are talking about 3.5% of the population. That means we are talking about more than 130,000 disabled persons with disability. The number of disabled due to the occupation and the violence used by the occupation in the Gaza Strip during the 2008 and 2012 war, and the West Bank, the first Intifada and the second Intifada, is estimated about 50,000 youngsters were shot by live bullet and rubber bullet and bombs and etc. They were caused to be disabled.
And what are you able to do for those people?
Actually, what we are able to do, we are doing actually our best through the YMCA and other international organizations and NGOs and the private sector in Palestine and the Gaza Strip and the West Bank and other people to try to save them the utmost need. They need to go on their life as normal as non-disabled people. So what we are saving them wheelchairs, electrical wheelchairs for a while. These they use. We establish them the building adjustments. I mean the ramps and the holders and the elevators and etc. to make their life easy. The second important thing that we are saving them health insurance is through the Ministry of Health, in Palestinian Ministry of Health. So health insurance and medication is saved for them. What we are doing also, we are doing our best to rehabilitate them vocationally and then to try to save them the most suitable work for them in the private sector and in the public sector to make their life easy.
Well, obviously, only a few people are able to participate in sport if they're disabled, but we do happen to be in the middle of the Paralympics at the moment in Sochi in the Russian Federation. Is there a Palestinian team there taking part?
Yes, actually, we are having team that is participating there, but it's not a large number actually. But locally, if we speak locally, like we are having in our city, in Nablus city, we are having 3 teams for disabled people who play basketball, tennis, and other athletics games, and they participate with other people with non-disability, and we are using the facilities at Al-Najah National University for them to train and to play and to do what they can do as usual as non-disabled people. So they are participating. Actually, we are having 2 from our home city participating in the Paralympics.
And what about Gaza? I mean, the situation is probably worse in Gaza, isn't it? Because that's under complete siege, unlike the West Bank.
Yes. Actually, the conditions in Gaza are, as you said, they are worse than the conditions in the West Bank for many reasons. First of all, the siege, and the other thing is the hard economic conditions resulted from the siege, that making life of non-disabled people very severe and very hard. So what about disabled? I mean, no medication, no health insurance. The situation is very tough and very bad for them. The possibility of getting work is so hard, and even it's not found for the disabled people to find a job there. And the passage to go out of Gaza, the way to go from Gaza to the West Bank or to Egypt to get the medication, the health care is very severe and very bad. So they are, facing a lot of problems. And one important other thing concerning the disability, we are having more than 150 disabled and severe diseased people in the Israeli prisons, in jails. We are having more than 70 cases of disabled people at the Israeli prisons who are also not getting any care, any health care, any facilities that could help them in living a better life.
Well, thank you. Susanna Taylor, let me come back to you. I mean, you mentioned psychosocial issues that people have. I mean, do people get through that so that they can resume a completely normal life?
Yes, in the work we have done with the East Jerusalem YMCA rehabilitation programme, we have some really wonderful cases of young people who initially were perhaps quite ashamed of their disability, perhaps their family was quite ashamed of the disability in some cases. They often wouldn't leave home, they wouldn't participate in the community, and through both the counselling and work around their life skills and self-esteem, but also a lot of work around learning about the rights that they are entitled to within the Palestinian disability law, we've seen some young people really transformed. And the work that we've done with the YMCA has also focused on forming groups of young people who know about their rights within the Palestinian disability law and who they themselves then advocate with local and national authorities to actually ensure that the law is better implemented. And so it's a long-term process, but from young people being quite timid and shy and not wanting to leave the home, we've seen some wonderful cases of young people being really strong advocates for their rights and really speaking up and asking for change.
And what about private employers? I mean, are employers becoming a bit more sensitive to the issue and open to taking on people who are disabled?
Well, that's interesting because there is still a lot of discrimination from private employers. According to the Palestinian disability law, there's actually a quota that both non-governmental and governmental organisations must employ 5% of disabled people. However, this is very often not implemented, but our partner, the YMCA, has done some very good work with private organisations, signing agreements with them, working in conjunction with the General Union of Disabled Palestinians to ensure that more private companies are becoming aware of their obligations within the law and also becoming more open and facilitating access for people with disabilities to work.
Well, it sounds a very progressive law. It says that 5% of the workforce has to be people from the disabled community.
Yes, that is progressive.
And not too many countries that have such a law, are there?
I believe so. So that's fantastic and a good step in the right direction. And what work needs to be done now in conjunction with the General Union for Disabled Palestinians is to ensure that people know about the actual content of the law, both at ministerial level, with civil society, with private companies, as you mentioned, so that the different elements within the law are actually implemented.
Well, let me come back to you, Samir. I mean, how is it financed, most of this work? Is it mainly from international donors, or is the local community able to, give money to help people?
You mean you
Well, the general work with disabled, is a lot of that reliant on international donors, or are Palestinians themselves joining to help?
Actually, it's both ways, because we are getting some donations from international, organizations and like YMCA, CARE, Handicap International, etc. And mostly, if we are speaking about our experience, we are getting a lot of donations from the local society, from the private sector mainly. They are doing well with us, and they are providing and supporting all what we are doing in our area, in the West Bank, actually. If you allow me, I would like to mention one important point about the Palestinian law number 4 about the disabled. Actually, what we have been working through the last 7-8 years is the public awareness about the rights of the disabled. And actually, we have achieved a lot in this process. That's why in the West Bank mainly, because I'm speaking about the West Bank mainly, allow me, we are having or witnessing a very interesting activities and very interesting awareness in the public sector and the private sector in our areas. So that's why they are helping or aiding us a lot. They are giving a lot of support for our activities, sport activities, wheelchairs buying, even donating for tuition fees at the university. As if you allow me, like the result of the public awareness, that we are now, the number of students at schools, at the universities is increasing in a very clear way. Like when we started out our office at Al-Najah National University, the Office of Care for Disabled, we were having only 9 students. Now, in 2014, we are having 72 students, which it's not enough. But I think this is resulting from the public awareness, a lot of parties doing this. So the university and the public sector and the private sector, is supporting the tuition fees for the university disabled students through a fund specially initiated for this. We call it the fund for the scholarship fund for disabled students. The fund of scholarships or scholarships fund for disabled students, where we pay them the tuition fees, the cost of life, and the books, and all other things. So this is making things easy.
I just want to, I'm sorry to interrupt, we're coming to the end. We've just got about a minute and a half left. Just in one or two sentences, what is your main priority? What do you really need most, just briefly?
What we need most actually is more awareness. We need to publish things, to make posters, to make campaigns, TV campaigns, radio station campaigns. And
all right.
Fund.
Well, thank you. Let me now give Susanna Taylor the same point. What is your priority as you see it for this?
I would agree with Samaya that it's very important to continue raising awareness and also to make the authorities aware of the obligations that they have within the law and the need to improve the laws and the services and the policies that exist for people living with disabilities, and to continue supporting local organisations, Palestinian organisations who are doing fantastic work on the ground in the West Bank.
Well, thank you very much for that, Susanna Taylor, and thank you, Samia Akrug, for taking part. We've now come to the end of this episode of Analysis, so I'd like to thank the guests and, of course, you at home for watching. Please tune in again for future discussions on the Islam Channel, and don't forget that you can keep up with discussions by following us on Twitter at the address that you'll see below, or by following Islam Channel Current Affairs on Facebook. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.